All right. Hi, Stephen in Vermont. Okay, great. We are live. Hmm. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is another wonderful episode of the Awakened Soul podcast with Kristen, me, your host, Kristen Bielecki, where we are elevating consciousness and creating the new earth. And so today we have a wonderful guest, Richard Chambers, who is an incredible spiritual mentor devoted to embodied sovereignty and deep soul remembrance. And at any time during this, if you'd like to, you can share in chat what you're experiencing, any questions you have. We are going to be exploring soul alchemy and stepping into mastery over victim consciousness, as well as honoring our roles at this time of planetary change and the rainbow prophecy. And Richard, you always have been one of my favorite guests here because of the depth that we get to go into in our conversations. So I always appreciate your presence. So thanks for being here, Richard. Yeah.
Thank you so
And
much for having me.
absolutely. So just welcoming everyone, Ina in California and Ray, hi, in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. And if you're just coming on to YouTube, you can write in chat where you're coming in from so we have an idea. So let's just take a moment to breathe. That's what I'm feeling. Take a moment just to take a moment here to recognize our presence together, to welcome our presence. Welcome this connection of our souls gathering upon this earth and our hearts connecting in this moment as we share this space, honoring this moment, honoring life, honoring this opportunity to gather and create together. Ah, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And all of nature and our elements and our guides and all that are going to be present here today through this experience. So, we are experiencing so much alchemy happening in the field. And so, Richard and I were just chatting about our current experiences. And so, I'd like to share, then Richard, obviously you're going to come in and share, but Richard kept popping into my awareness. I just kept thinking, oh, I need to connect with Richard. And then I was thinking ahead to the podcast, and I was like, oh, I'd love to have him on again as a guest. So I reached out and said, hey, do you want to be on? And then he emailed back and was just like, yes. And I would love Richard to share his current story because I know so much is happening so quickly, but we're also recognizing how important it is to be in our inner depth right now and coming from that place. And so, yeah, Richard, yeah, if you'd like to share what's been present for you and how that landed for you when I invited you.
I think so. Over the last few years, I've just done so much traveling and I've traveled down a lot to Colombia to do work with some of the indigenous elders down there and going back and forth from the mountains and the jungle to, my home in Canada. And part of all of that was receiving a blessing so my wife and I could have a child. And that child has come into fruition. So over the last, she is 6.5 months old. And basically, just before she was born, I was receiving how important it was to really pull all of my energy back from all of my creations, everything that I was doing, so I could support my wife with the birthing of our star child and to really ground in where we are. So I've actually pulled my energy back from a lot of places and spaces, and people have been reaching out to me asking when I'm going to start, doing stuff and getting out there again. And So it was a couple weeks ago I received the message that Spirit told me you have to get out there. You have to start, you know, getting out there speaking again. It's time. And it was that day or the next day, Kristen sent me an email saying, "Do you want to come on the podcast?" And my guides were just kind of nudging me. They're like, "You can't say no to this." So I was like, "Okay." And that's kind of the art of, right? Like shamanism is an art of listening. So it's the art of listening, and we're learning to listen to our connection and to spirit and to everything, to the very essence of nature and the messages that are continually being received, whether they're from the earth, the stars, the sun, the water, the rocks. Everything is always speaking to us and sharing us messages. And sometimes it requires us to really pull back so we can fine tune our ability or calibrate it to an equilibrium where we're able to really hear clearly. And so that's
Mhm.
for the space I've been at, where
Mhm.
it's been about just making sure I have the time to listen, right? To kind of clear the slate, to let things go and create that space.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so beautiful. When I received his message, it was like, oh yay, I love the alignment. I love the listening and the allowing and having those things flow right into place. And I was having this experience in meditation this morning where I've been called to move, and I'll be moving out of my place at the end of the month, and I'm not sure where I'll be landing. I don't have a place to land yet, and I've been mostly okay with that. I would say 98% okay with that. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Where are we going? And but it's just such a deep calling. And I've been looking at homes, looking, to buy either land or a home and just going around, but nothing was landing. So I just sat in meditation this morning and I was like, just show me the way. What's happening? And I just got a very clear message. It's not about the home, it's about the way of life. It's about the way of life. And so I was like, okay. And I know that my son and I have been wanting to travel and just have more and be on the land, and nature is calling me more and more and more. And so it's like, okay, what if I was telling Richard, it's like, I think we're going to go wild for a little bit and just listen. But it came from that deep listening and not being caught in the have tos or the shoulds, or just being going, what is present? What is my soul? What is my energy? What is the earth? What is life really calling for right now? And I think that this soul alchemy that we're going to dive into, that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about that alchemy that's happening in the moment when we're in deep listening. So let's dive more into that. And I think we can take it in either direction right now, but I'm really feeling, because we're talking about I'm feeling with sharing our stories of honoring our roles in the planetary change right now and what that's really asking of us or calling for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I feel they're both interconnected, right? Because it really does come down to creating that space in your life so you have the ability to listen. Because many of us are kind of living our life from a place of disconnection. And we may not always know that we're disconnected, right? Or we're not in that deep, intimate, like relationship with the spirit of everything.
Mhm.
So it's about returning to that, and it's about really deepening our practice that we're able to heal the relationship between our own spirit and our own body, and that's going to help us then live with a deeper meaning and purpose and interconnectedness and understand what our role is at this time, because I think there are many roles, right, that are unfolding on the planet. And I
Mhm.
always go back to during my awakening, I had this prophetic dream, and it was I literally watched the wars happening. I watched the earth being just the minerals taken out of it, the metals taken out of it, and just drained of all of these precious resources. And I remember in this dream vision I had, I felt so sad for what the earth was going through.
Mm.
It really touched me deeply. And I thought how hopeless this felt, this vision.
Wow.
And then after I saw, the parts of the earth being scorched, I saw all of the beauty and the life that started to grow and blossom. And then I started to see all of these individuals from sacred couples to, people creating things and inventing new technologies and, like an example, like to clean the plastics out of the ocean and so to help the waters that are polluted, to help with the forestry and
Mm.
just all of these people that were coming out with solutions for what all of the issues were. And I went through, I want to say it was about a 12-hour like vision where watched all of this unfold. And for me, that just completely changed the way that I see and view the planetary changes that are happening. And I think
Mhm.
we we're in that point right now, right?
Yeah.
We're in the point where it doesn't look too great. There's
Mhm.
way too much fire energy on the planet, which means there's a lot of anger, a lot of violence, a lot of hatred, a lot of conflict, a lot of war. That's what happens when the human spirit is out of alignment with their fire, right? Then
Yeah.
the human spirit starts to cause harm to the planet.
Mm.
And that's what we're seeing, right?
Mhm.
So with that, though, through the fire is also born or creates, the solutions. And I think a lot of us are getting pulled out of what it is we're meant to be doing, right? Like we're meant to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So that's what I really feel like the focus is right now. Everyone will understand that more the more they're able to come into a place of connection and not be so influenced by by the by the ones that are causing the destruction basically of the
Mhm.
planet, right?
Mhm.
I always feel love is the answer and love will heal. And that's just like when fire is out of balance, it doesn't make sense to put more fire onto the fire, right? It's through
Yeah.
the water, through the intuition, through the clairvoyance, through the flow, through the movement, through the connection that we're going to find the solutions. That's going to
Mhm.
ground everything in.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. Absolutely. I've been sharing that as well because with this whole idea of the fire horse, right? It's almost like, all right, what are we going to burn up, right? What are we going to what are we going to alchemize? And at the same time, there's the water element that balances the fire in the Chinese medicine. When we look at the Chinese medicine wheel, and you just brought in that beautiful reflection that it is time to bring them both together so that there is the balance. There is the balance. And when we're connecting in with our roles, I feel that we can also shift from the pressure of the roles to, as you were talking, of just going into the love, going into, because that's really the true role, right? I think about what was delivered and what a beautiful vision you've had. And I've experienced similar experiences and just that deep trust that this is exactly what needs to be happening through this transition and that all the everything grows, everything there's so much resilience in nature and life, and it always regrows, it always rebuilds, and we have the technology and the awareness to do that. And through all of the prophecies, it's always stay in the heart, right? Be in the heart, because that's the frequency that's going to carry us through this phase of life. And the more we can do that, the more it anchors in that connection. And I was been in deep connection with Mother Earth recently with this move, especially just like show me the way, right? Like, all right, I'm, in this living body with Earth. What's the movement? What's the connection? And even though all of this is happening, her consciousness is just like in surrender too, as well as holding this deep strength of knowing. the truth of those pure original codes of creation that keep life in balance and keep life in movement, regardless of all of this, all of these other things that are going on right now. Yeah.
I'm just feeling into that, and there's so many different like roles that everyone can be stepping into, and it's like in you have to have the clarity within your own life to be able to allow that to manifest. And we
Yeah.
have space holders, and we have visionaries, and we're going to have healers, and we're going to have leaders, and there's just so many roles for people to fulfill, right? And it's not just one role. Like, we're
Mm.
not all going to be the visionaries,
Yeah.
and that's okay, right? Because there is a soul power, one of us, that are in harmony and rhythm with the times that are unfolding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think back to one of my first teachers used to told me this story about how she went to a naming ceremony, and she was sitting in the naming ceremony, and they were in the tent, and it was, well, everyone sitting around and the fire going, and the lady that she was sitting beside was just super prickly and very like irritable, and she was thinking how sacred of an honor it was to go through a naming ceremony, and she couldn't believe that she was sitting beside this person, right? Like, and she was trying to figure out, how did this rude person end up in the tent? Like, why are they
Mm.
here? How did they end up here?
Mm.
And then when the elder came by and gave them all their names and shared a message with them, the lady that was beside her turned and said, "Do you know what he said to me? He said, 'Don't change a thing about you. You're
Wow.
perfect as you are.'"
Wow.
And she thought about that for a moment, and she said to me that, "I understand why, because we all don't have the same roles." She
Hmm.
had a warrior spirit. And so this woman had a warrior spirit, and she was meant to be a warrior. It
Hmm.
was meant to be lovable and cuddly, and where soft, and that really healing energy. So
Hmm.
I think it's important to understand that as well. There are many different roles.
Hmm.
So it's important for us to create that space so we actually understand who we are. We understand who we are and what is our authentic, like, soul frequency and our authentic soul expression,
Hmm.
which is a very natural, like, emanation that is just interconnectedness, right?
Yeah.
The more connected you are, the more healed we are, the more healed we are, that goes out into the collective as well, right? And the easier it is, the more effortless it is for us to step into our roles where we don't even think about doing it because we're doing it. It's a state
Hmm.
of being, right?
Hmm.
And it's not something we need to find or change. It's actually who you are.
Hmm.
Just the example we gave about how, I came onto the podcast, I was just listening. I was just
Hmm.
listening and meditating, and
Yeah.
my guides were communicating with me about getting out there again, starting to speak more. And
Hmm.
Kirsten reached out. And I know if I'm given a message from spirit, I'm to follow through on it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't follow through on it, tells that's that message to the earth that I'm not listening to her, or not in harmony with her, or I'm not in harmony with my spirit, or I'm doubting my path, or I'm doubting what's there for me. So, like you said, the deep inner trust
Hmm.
that we're being guided in a very like divine manner. And
Hmm.
that's why we have to clear out the noise, right?
Hmm.
Of what's going on, and to focus on what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Um, because it can get very challenging if you don't create the proper space within your life, and you don't have the proper boundaries for yourself and for your own creations and manifestations as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So real, so true. And what a beautiful story. So that we can recognize that, not everyone's going to carry that same frequency that we think or should, so like releasing the expectations of who people have to be and who we have to be and allowing it. And that also recognizing sometimes our roles shift and change, right? So like your role was to pull back and be quiet, and now it's to be more visible again and going into the external while from that deep inner place that you've been able to cultivate by going more inward. And I feel that for myself too, I feel like I've been really external, right? And now it's like, ooh, it's time to go internal. It's time to shift things around. And even though I'm out here, it feels that it doing this right now and it'll continue. There's a message for me to be more on the land, be more with nature, be more with this different element of myself that wants expression. So this new embodiment can really happen, this role. And I think sometimes it can be confusing, especially for those of us who are multi-skilled. Because I'm that way, multi-skilled, and I'm just like, oh, okay, what should I be doing? Should I be doing this or that? There's so many things. And sometimes I'm just like, set them all out on the table, just or in the zone on my energy field, and which one's resonant, which one's aligned in this moment. And recognizing even though we have that capacity to maybe be multi-skilled or talented, that they're all always in play. It's just one is going to maybe be more dominant at different times of our experience, and that's okay too. Right? We're just going to have more of, and that's that deep listening and letting each piece, like maybe this month we're inward, maybe next month it's outward. So what I'm getting at here is not being attached to the roles so that as Richard is speaking, we can be in the fluidity of the expression that wants to be and the embodiment that wants to be in the moment now. Yeah.
I think how many times like our timeline has shifted,
Hmm.
right? Or our timeline has collapsed, or the reality that we thought we knew is now different. And this is kind of a interesting topic about like what's more important for us right now. Like, is it more important for us to change our frequency, or is it more important for us to change our perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because you can change your perspective, or you can change your frequency, but if you don't change your perspective, you're going to go back, right? I
Hmm.
think that's that's what shifts the reality or the way we see or show up in the world, right? Is when we're able to step into a perspective shift that's going to be the most alignment for ourselves and for our life.
Hmm. Absolutely. Just like this morning when I got that perspective shift. If it's not about the home, it's about the way of life. And I could feel, whoa, I could
Yeah,
feel the frequency shift right then and there. And then my whole body relaxed. And then I was like, right, and it opened up so much more possibility of what could take place in the experience of this move, of this shift. And so I appreciate you bringing in that distinction and how they work together, right? So if we're going to really look at ourselves or the world, the perspective creates the frequency, and then the frequency can create the perspective, right? It's like the
yeah,
the mirror effect. And so what are we going to focus on? And I think right now it's definitely going into the word that's coming is forgiveness, going into a lot of forgiveness about the perspectives that we may have carried about ourselves or the world so that our perspectives can shift. So we shift our frequency of how we're being with ourselves and the world. Yeah.
yeah. It's deep, right? I think a lot
Ah.
of us have challenging challenges accessing that, right? Because
Mhm.
we kind of get used to whatever's imprinted on us, right? Like whatever the way we've been showing up in the world is how we tend to show up in the world, unless we're able to connect with that future like version of ourselves who's kind of already made it there, already gone through that. That's usually the way I try to give myself a perspective shift is where I'm going, what does that version of me, how did they view the situation? How would they behave? How would they act? And that tends to open up my ability to quantum shift or quantum jump or step into a different reality or a timeline that's going to be in alignment with the perspective that's going to shift the frequency, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things I'm working on for myself within this experience right now is forgiveness on times I haven't listened. Because I can still feel like when I look at my life right now, I'm like, oh, what would the timeline have been like? What would have life been like if I had listened to, and this is a real thing for me. Like I thought about doing this type of conversational thing after my first Unity Consciousness event in 2020, and then I didn't, right? And I'm like, what would like have been like? And there's, these places where we can judge ourselves for not doing something in the past that may create a life different that we would want now, right? And so I look at it and I'm like, okay, it's pretty minimal now, but there's still I can still feel these nudges in my system, like wanting some attention around it. So I'm like, okay, great, let's have a conversation, body or consciousness around what we're still holding so that my perspective can shift about myself and about my life. So my frequency is more, whole in what I am doing right now. And I think that, and why I'm sharing this is because sometimes when we're shifting perspective and wanting to be in a certain frequency, but we still have things that we're holding in our system around life, and we can't really fully step into our life right now because we have all these thoughts about it, then it's going, oh, right, let's work on those things. And then I think this is moving into
Yeah.
that mastery over victim consciousness, right? Because this is where I'm not, and I don't feel this about it. I just feel like, huh, sometimes I'm like, you know, I just get a little, and I think it's more about, oh, I didn't listen. Why wasn't I honoring, like what you said, being in alignment? Why wasn't I honoring myself for life in the calling that I received, but also not being a victim to that choice or not being a victim to the story I can make about how my life would be different if I had did it then, right? So I'm bringing this as an example, a real time example of how we can really connect with ourselves to shift from victim consciousness so that our roles do become clear, right? So that we can step into the clarity of our present moment.
I love this conversation. It's really, this is to me something that will change lives if people just really drop into their heart and listen because one, we're human. We're here having a human experience. So guess
Mhm.
what? No one's perfect. No one's going to be perfect. And the more you try, the more pain that you're going to suffer because there are the ebbs and flows. And like you said, we have those moments where we judge ourselves or we may have triggers or emotions that are coming up. And I think the huge shift in our like journey is when we shift from that victim consciousness and we start to shift into mastery, right?
Mhm.
Mastery is about it. Well, and this is interesting topic, mastery. Like how many enlightened people are there on the planet? Like, I don't know. I wouldn't say there are a lot, so I think that
Mhm.
pretty much all of us are going through a form of mastery, trying to master.
Mhm.
And so when the work comes up, when the pain comes up, the suffering comes up, the uncomfortable stuff comes up in our life, instead of us blaming the external environment or situations for why we're feeling that way, we start to actually fall in love with the work and saying like, whew, like this is good. What is this teaching me?
Mhm.
Like what is grief trying to teach me in this moment? Like what
Mhm.
is my soul want? What's the gift my soul is trying to embody through this grieving experience? Or what is this anger trying to teach me that I'm feeling and experiencing? Because there's something my soul is trying to understand. That's the soul alchemy, right? So we start to fall in love with the work, not saying that it will always feel loving because it's going to be uncomfortable. But we realize that on as we move through those integrations and realizations and aha moments, that part of our consciousness is like returning, to us. There's a gift always on the other side when we're able to embrace embrace or navigate the difficult parts of our journey. And those difficult parts of our journey, we all have different teachers in our life, right? All of us. For some, it can be depression. For others, it could be, anger. For
Mhm.
some, it may be loneliness.
Mhm.
But we all have these different master teachers that are teaching our soul how to alchemize that into the medicine of what's on the other side of that.
Mhm.
So it's this becomes kind of a beautiful dance, right? That our soul is doing. Our soul is remembering how to weave its shadow and its light together into more of an embodied state of consciousness. And the moment I don't do this all the time. I don't think anyone can do this all the time. But the more you're able to love that uncomfortableness and understand the teachings, and you're going to be a different person when you come through the other side of that. That's mastery. That's mastery. And that's taking full accountability for the way that I feel and the way that I behave and
Yeah.
for what I'm experiencing in my life, because my life is the teacher, right? So
Mhm.
to me, that's the soul alchemy that
Mhm.
is going to take anyone and their situation and be able to bring empowerment, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. I feel accountability leads to that empowerment. Absolutely. When we shift the blame or the pointing the finger or that victim state to our circumstances or the people as part of the circumstances, and we say, okay, I'm still carrying these thoughts, I'm still carrying these feelings. I need to connect with them and work with that so that it's not an external, constantly pouring energy, and it takes up our life force energy when we're doing that, when we're constantly putting our energy into the external circumstances from the past or the present, right? Or our ideas about the future, even, right? So it's, not being a victim to the past, present, or future. It's going, if I'm fully accountable for the ways that I have chosen to respond to life and hold my energy and then move through life through this energy, right, then I can pull my power back and then I can go through it, even though it's definitely going to be, it might not, it's always, that can even be a challenge in itself is to, face those things about ourselves and work through how deep, those ideas and beliefs and behaviors have become in our system, in our nerve system, in our muscle memory, and our thinking memory and the ways that we move. And what you're saying though brings, to me, it's like the greatest reward. It's just like turning to love, turning to love with it and turning to that space of acceptance and acknowledgement and really deeply, deeply sitting with ourselves and listening deeply and letting that have its path. And that's the alchemy, as you said, and that transmutation. And sometimes it takes some going over, right? Sometimes we have it as a consistent process. But the more we can pull in and say it's not about what happened out there, it's about how I'm choosing, just that perspective shift, right? The frequency that we're holding around it. It's so powerful, and that's the magic. That's the truth right there. And sometimes, we have to sit in that for a while, depending on how deep it is. And then other times, some things move more quickly, but the more consistent we are, the more willing we are, the more depth that we're willing to see through life. And I think that's the bigger thing for me has always been looking at the bigger picture. Like you shared that bigger picture, that beautiful vision you had of the earth and the what you saw, so you could have trust in what's happening and just go, okay, and listen to that. For me, it's always the bigger picture too. Like even though how intense it feels in my own body or my own life, when I scale back and I say, wow, my soul has had something here, and there's something that it's moving me through. All these teachers, like you said, it's moving me through something. I'm moving myself through something. And with the help of all of this, wow, what's on the other side? That's what keeps me going because I'm so fascinated by what's possible and who I truly am through these experiences, who we truly are, what this planet and all of this truly is through this experience.
Yeah, it's so powerful to walk between both worlds, like so to speak,
Yeah.
right? Like we know there's all of these different experiences that are happening on this planet at this time, and
Hmm.
you can go and experience so many different ones.
Hmm.
But there's also the quantum reality and the quantum potential, and there is, our higher timelines and our higher realities and our abilities to connect with that like eternal part of our nature and that interconnectedness that is, like you said, connected with our heart, and our heart is our compass and it's our guide through all of that.
Yeah.
So that's a focus that I try to have, because you're always there's always a form of something trying to contract you into their reality, right?
Hmm.
And it's important that you're understanding your agreements within your own reality that you are living, right?
Hmm.
So that you are able to, go through your soul alchemy, go through your experience, bring into fruition the things that are meant to be brought into, and have that reality then positively impact those and others that are around you and into the earth and into the collective and so on and so
Yeah.
forth, right?
Hmm.
And that's kind of another reflection. Like when I used to come back from the jungle, I would, I had a hard time living where I live. And I thought I lived in such a really nice area, like a really nice area, really high frequency. And I would go in the mountains and go in the jungle, and I would come back and I could feel everyone and everything. And I I was in shock with how dense it felt where I lived. And I was just so energetically raw and vulnerable and sensitive after being off grid and then back, right?
Hmm.
And again, this is like the shifting from victim consciousness, because
Yeah.
at that moment, I was like, I don't even know if I can live in my community. I'm going to have to move. And And I woke up one day and I went outside and I looked at the sun, and I felt, the love from this unconditionally loving being that's shining down on me. And I thought about the sun, and I thought, like, how magnificent that there's this being that's just sharing this light with me. And not even just me, this being sharing light with everybody. This is
Hmm.
not choosing who it shares light with and who it doesn't. Just here's light and life for everyone. And I
Hmm.
thought, wow, well, that's here and that's in this community.
Hmm.
So there's the density, there's this, there's that. And I'm like, but there's also like the spiritual dimensions of light, all this love that's here for me to feel too. And then I came into the conclusion, whoa, what if I'm not meant to process the collective energies?
Hmm.
Then I had to sit there and release the collective energies that were coming up from the earth, because I didn't want to play into that anymore. I wanted to hold that other vision, right, for my life and for my reality, and for everybody in our community, so they can also access that as well, right? That's when that shift really came in, and all of a sudden I didn't feel so sensitive and so scared to go out in my own community after,
Yeah.
being in the jungle, where it was like, I was literally crying every morning when I first came back, because I just felt so sensitive. And
Hmm.
then I went through that shift. And then it wasn't the community or this or that. It was, my awareness that turned that into soul alchemy. Understand, I didn't need to process other people's energies or collective energies, that it's all here for us. Like whatever we want to experience, we pretty much get to experience if we're listening and able to show up for it in a way that's, in alignment with our heart, right?
Yeah. Mm. Yes, yes, yes. It's fascinating to me that you sharing your story about that because I can totally relate. Like the first time I went to Costa Rica, I was 18 or 19, and I came back to the States. I was literally fell into a depressive state for a while because I was like, same thing. Like, how do I even manage this energy? I didn't realize how much we took on, in that state from just being in the wild. And then as you were speaking, I just had a moment of like, oh, right. Because I used to backpack a lot, go on 2 weeks or so just out. And when I'd come back to like, okay, got to go to the grocery store, got to get stuff, I'd be so overwhelmed. And this was like in my, teenage, early 20s and 20s. I doing a lot of that. And I'd get so overwhelmed. And after a while, I had to remind myself, okay, wait, we're going through a big transition, take some time to recognize and set my energy for being back into a whole different construct. And when you were speaking, it just landed like, oh, right. I feel like that was preparation for doing the work I do now because it taught me that exactly what you were saying is like, I don't need to come into that space and absorb all that energy. What I need to do, and what I started to do, is work on a transition zone from being in raw nature to stepping into a grocery store, stepping into public or driving again, doing all those things that are that feel sometimes feel anti-life, from being in raw nature. And now it's like, oh right. So that just clicked for me when you said that. Oh right, that was like preparation for doing this type of work in groups where I'm not taking on anyone's energy. I recognize, the clarity of the space and the collective and all of that. And I feel that wildness that we have, that is the interdependence of energy, but not having to attach ourselves to the energy. Right? We're still recognizing the flow of life that synergizes itself for all of us to be in exchange here on this planet, but we're not attaching to it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's powerful stuff right there. That's what also like teaches us such deep levels of compassion for what everyone is experiencing and going
Mhm.
through because we fully understand, the depths of it on how heavy it can feel, right? But
Mhm.
again, it's that remembrance of sometimes through that lens we're viewing our reality through, right? We're so used to viewing through that lens
Yeah.
that we don't even realize the imprint we're viewing the world through, right? And that's from whatever kind of conditioning or environment or the way we're raised or how we're living, that's been, placed there or kind of created there. So just as an example of how, I was feeling so victimized in my home, like in my home where I live,
Mm.
I had to go through a perspective shift because what I was seeing was the pain, the suffering, and I was feeling it. I was
Yes.
feeling the collective. And then the shift is like, well, wait, there's actually all of this here too. There's all of this. The spiritual like dimensions of light are literally around me in everything I do. Hey, look, I am actually emanating light from my aura. Like, look how much light I'm emanating right now.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how cool is that? Like,
Yeah.
how cool is that I am a being of light, right?
Hmm.
Like this body is emanating light. But if I'm not in my body, it's not emanating light,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that means that's part of my eternal like being and consciousness. Hey, look at that tree. That tree is emanating light.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at its eternal consciousness. It has a spirit, it has a soul, right? And look at the sun. The sun's like that's the language that starts to shift the way we like view the world through, right? So the more we're able to see and connect with that, that's our interconnectedness that's starting to come back online. And we're starting to then transcend the pattern of just seeing the separation, right?
Mhm.
Just seeing the separation or just seeing the suffering. So it's like that. I was able to kind of pull myself above it to remember that.
Yeah.
And then back to the soul alchemy, when you're bringing more light, we all know it's going to illuminate and it's going to shine its in the areas of your life where you may not be as conscious, and that's going to bring up the soul alchemy for you to
Yeah.
learn any lessons or teachings, right? But for me, that was a big empowerment like piece, to really help myself realize, so what's it feel like to not connect with the collective consciousness? But how cool is it that Mother Earth, the Gaia, this beautifully, unconditionally loving being is just like she shines so much light. And that light flows through the rivers, it flows through the trees, it flows through me. Like it
Yeah.
flows through the rocks, it flows through the air. Like there's
Hmm.
this light everywhere,
Hmm.
you know? And maybe light's not the best term for it, but what I'm talking about is that creational life force, that prana, that energy that looks like light,
Yeah.
but it's this form of consciousness that is like, it's the web of light or the web of life that's so interconnected. So the more we can breathe into that and feel into that and connect with that, it starts to transcend the actual reality that we're in,
Hmm.
right? We start to perceive things from a viewpoint that is greater than, I don't want to say greater, it's not greater than. We're creating an awareness,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Oh, and that's another like reflection is whether we are unaware of something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So when I was in my suffering of feeling, that deep victim consciousness, it didn't mean my higher self wasn't with me. It
Hmm.
didn't mean that all this light wasn't around me. It meant I was unaware of being able to see that or access that.
Hmm.
So again, when we shift the perspective, now it just like it opens up that blossoming, right, for us.
Hmm. Indeed. I really, that's really powerful right there, what you were just sharing, just that process. And really welcoming that awareness into our experience so that we can see how we can move through it, those steps and stages and how to welcome that. And I appreciate that because I was remembering too when I came back from Costa Rica and I was like that. I was like, oh my gosh, how do we live this way? Why are we living this way? What's happening here? I just remember just going into the nearest place I could find trees. And then plus my street was lined with trees and it was that time of year where I could just go outside and put my feet in the grass. And it's like those simple things, like you were saying, I was just remembering, oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's right here. And so to remember that, and I was speaking about this the other day, like let's come to simplicity again. Let's come to simplicity again, where we're keeping it simple, where we can recognize just in our immediate environment the things that are natural nature or the things that are uplifting so that we can have those perspective shifts so we aren't falling into victim consciousness of our location or what our state of being at the moment. Is going, wow, how can I shift today? I think that's a great question we can all ask ourselves. Like, if I'm in this awareness, like you were speaking about, if I'm in this awareness of, anger, or depression, or just feeling lonely or feeling lack or whatever it is, we're just breathing into the heart saying, how can I shift perspective? How can I shift perspective right now to invite that awareness that I am like that remembrance again, that returning to the truth, because really, those things are, and I really appreciate this distinction you made that, we maybe light isn't the right term sometimes because people are like light and dark. Oh, dark is bad, light is good, whatever. But really, it's a sound vibration frequency that does become light through movement, right? And so it's just noticing the processes and maybe and one is not better than the other, too, as you said. It's just awareness. What awareness are we choosing? What awareness would we like to choose? And there it comes again that empowerment. Like if we're accountable for our present state, then we can draw in our power. And I find that very empowering when I become responsible for my present state. And it's like, oh, right. Instead of going into judgment, I'm going into then if I'm creating this and I have that power, then the solution is here. The solution is around me. The solution is within me. What is it? Show me the way. Just keep coming back to that place of returning to the self. Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Always, always good stuff. So, with this, and I'd love to explore with you the rainbow prophecy because that is such a beautiful, we're going through it, right? And so, what's your understanding of that? And I know what we've been talking about is a part of it. So,
Yeah, so I'm not going to speak into the particular like Hopi prophecy, right?
mhm.
Because they do
Yeah,
such a great job of speaking into that. You can just
yeah,
look
yeah.
up what the Hopi prophecy is, and we've held, meetings with Hopi elders, and um, but basically what it is it's a time of great change, and it's not just a time of great change. It's a time of initiation and transcendence where
Hmm.
we kind of see everything is falling apart. It's not functioning. It's not working the way it's meant to, and
Hmm.
it kind of feels like we talked about earlier, a little hopeless. But through that is birth and born, the rainbow children, the children
Hmm.
that are of all different races, all different creeds, of all different ancestral lineages, of all different, star nations and star ancestors that are here on the planet that are going to do things a different way, right? And I think that's what's really important right now is that we have to remember what the actual like antidote is. And the antidote for me is always love. All love is always the medicine
Yeah.
for us to move forward, being connected with our hearts. And this to me is warriors of the heart, right? The
Yeah.
ones who've made the hardest journey in life,
Yeah.
that 10-inch journey from the mind down into the heart. Those are the ones that will be the guides, the leaders, the way showers, the
Yeah.
healers, the inventors, the activators, because they're going to be in harmony and rhythm with the earth and the planet and the stars, and they will be delivering like those messages like at this time. So the rainbow prophecy to me is like each one of us that is actually rising up in to the reality we know that it can be, and holding that like quantum reality for everyone else. And there's
Mm.
so many star children that are on the planet right now. We just had another one. That's my third.
Hmm. Yeah.
My oldest daughter is 13 now, teenager. It's just mind blowing. And I remember this is the stuff, right? Like this is the good stuff. We need to look to our children and inspire them
Yeah.
because they're the ones that are going to be bringing just bigger shifts. Like we're a bridge in many ways, but the children nowadays, I have goosebumps as I'm
I
talking.
know.
They are going to do things that we can't even fathom yet, but we need to set them up so they can do that. And I remember speaking with my daughter when she was probably around 4 or 5, and I said, if you could create one thing right now, what would you create? And she said, first thing I would do would be to create a rainbow Wi-Fi.
Wow.
And I was like, a rainbow Wi-Fi, what does that do? And she goes, it would just broadcast rainbow energy all over the planet. And I was like, yeah, I was like, we need that big time. Right. And I was like, kind of, the earth has its dragon lines and does that. But I mean, so to me, this is what the rainbow prophecy is about, all of these beautiful star children that are here, that they're just not going to do things the way that we did them. We've
Hmm.
already started to break down the systems and to roll things over and change that and to hold this higher vision. But these star children are
Yeah.
coming in with different templates, different blueprints and instruction sets, and they're just operating at a different frequency that I think is just going to, it can't be, they're just not going to fit into the
Hmm.
mold anymore. I
Ah,
think we're seeing that, right?
yeah.
That's
Hmm.
what it is to me.
Hmm.
And it's the more we can empower the children right now, I
Yes.
feel the more that prophecy comes into fruition, right?
Hmm. Yes, yes. Oh my goodness, I love that. I had a memory of, if any of you remember this, the Care Bears, growing up, and it's like the rainbows are coming out of their hearts, and it's like, it's like she's so in tune with that reality. I love it. Just like spreading love through our hearts. So rainbow Wi-Fi, how incredible. Oh, what a visionary.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I'm thinking about it, and it's like she was like, not this stuff. Like we need rainbow Wi-Fi for everybody, right? Free.
Yeah. That's so great. Yeah, I'm really with that with the children. And one of the things that's really been coming through too is to support people in their alignment with their children. Because I know a lot of, parents who have children that are doing things differently and they don't know how to interact because they're not quite there. And so, just really it's coming to me to support, families that way or people who are wanting to conceive, just like, okay, let's connect with these souls here and let's see what's coming through, just like I know you did with yours and I did with mine, it was like a real deep soul relationship happening there before it was coming, before they actually came into body. And I'm seeing that in my community as well. Like there's these families who are also of like mind that want to get land, want to have like the village, right? Not necessarily an intentional community that's super ingrained with each other, but at least living in proximity so that we can share resources, have our children be with each other, because there's so many skills among the parents. And that's a conversation that's going on right now. And because I can see these children too, just being like, they are not like, they are brilliant, really incredible beings that are ready, aren't plugged into the world as much because they're at home and they have these different community experiences. And I had this opportunity, this family that I hadn't met before was at the play date, the park day yesterday, and it was a beautiful day. And I was sitting there talking with the mom, really cool. And the child, teeny tiny, just walks over to me and just reaches out her arms, and pick her up, put her in my lap, and I had this on again, and she's looking at it. And I was like, that's rainbow moonstone. And her eyes just like, boom, like lit up. And she just kept in my eyes. Like she just kept sitting there deeply connecting with me. We were just in a zone, right? And I was like, wow, these children coming in, they're just locked in. They see, they know, and they're ready. They're ready before they're talking before anything. And I was like, yes, you are gifted. And she just lit up, and it was just so wonderful to see these and have these experiences and see what's possible through this new life coming onto this planet and these connections that people are wanting to create so that we can support each other in this new way of experiencing life.
Yeah, I think, really important to for people to kind of take that power back, right?
Yeah.
I know like my daughter, I'm not sending her to school. She won't be going to school. We'll homeschool and
Yeah.
it's just you got to create that space for them. It's
Hmm.
really important. And
Yeah.
the other night I went to go to sleep and I got in bed and it's my wife and my daughter in bed and I go to close my eyes and I see these two things and I'm like, are there dinosaurs in here? And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like, oh, those are baby dragons. And I'm like, what
Oh.
are you guys doing here? And they're like, we're with her. And I'm like, oh, you're my daughter's baby dragons. Okay. And I'm just like, all right. I'm like, are you gonna be like hanging out? What's up? And it's like, they're like, okay. And I'm like, it's cool. There's lots of space, and it's just different, right? Like,
Mhm.
we want to there are these there's such a profound level of consciousness that's coming into form and embodying. And like, it's not like it wasn't here. We were just unaware of it. And these children are aware of it. They're aware of it deeply. They're coming into the world so connected with this. So our job is to make sure that they're able to hold, maintain, and nurture that and grow and develop that, right? And
Mhm.
that is also kind of like a doorway for each one of us as well, you know? Like it's I know we're all doing that work too, but there's just a whole level of consciousness that's getting ready to unfold here. And it's here. But the question is, have we created that space to actually be able to see and listen? And have we healed, our own connection with our own spirit and body, right?
Yeah, indeed. And I think that's what, for me, that rainbow essence is about. It's broadening our perspective, right? It's seeing things as a whole. It's seeing things how all of these frequencies are working together. It's a rhythm, it's a pattern, it's a movement, right? And yeah, we may be in one frequency or another at different times, but to me, it's like really that true embodiment. And then the expansion of it, all the layers and different colors or vibrations that emanate from that and the different combinations, right? And just seeing that diversity and the wholeness playing out so that as life is shifting and moving right now, and we come into a place where we're rejuvenating again, we're in generating life force energy in balance again, that we get to um, be connected in this beautiful way of perception that allows diversity, allows these experiences, and more people can have access to those different experiences. Like you said, like, oh, I get to connect with my child's, guides or guardians or friends in these other zones. So, yeah. And I'm thinking I'd love to open it up. If anyone has any questions, you can put it in chat for us. Um, if you have anything you want to, just share, you can put it in chat on YouTube or chat on Zoom, anything you're resonating with, or uh, any questions you have in your life moving through this current stage of experience on our planet. Yeah. It's so profound to start to come together again. And I think that's what, we're being asked to is just come together, where all those experiences of division are happening, that remember that it's not about putting our attention and power into that. It's about pulling it back into how we're creating balance within our lives. So, like you said, we can be the ones that are present and available to put these new forms and ways of being into play. And then we already are. It's already happening. It's just going. It's still in the process of taking shape and form, so it's more accessible to everybody else.
It's going to take time, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think everyone thinks it's going to be here tomorrow, but when you look at the planet right now, you can see how out of balance the fire energy is on the planet.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
that's actually, if there's, are there any questions? If not, there's
Not yet,
share.
not quite, not yet. Oh, let's see. Yeah, not yet. Hmm.
So just while we're waiting for a question, something everyone can do this year because the fire energy is so out of balance on the planet, meaning the human spirit has forgotten its relationship with fire. And because of that, that is being shown in its extremes, right? Like greed, lust, violence, anger, hatred, war, conflict. So a way that we all can support our relationship with fire is to connect with fire, like to hold sacred fire, to talk to the fire, to bring the fire back into our home, where it's even if you're lighting a candle, each day and sitting with it, but taking that awareness and bringing that relationship back with fire as a divine energy, right? Because if we go back throughout time, like we used to sit around the fire as community. We
Hmm.
don't do that anymore. And because we don't do that anymore, now our communities are falling apart, right? So the community that sits around the fire stays together. And it's the same thing with your home. Like we used to have a fire in our home.
Yeah.
They removed the fires from our home. And now
Hmm.
we have more issues with families and that, right? So
Hmm.
it's important to just honor your relationship with fire to help bring it back into order. And then that's also a message that goes out into the collective consciousness that humanity has not forgotten their relationship with fire. And it helps to bring that fire energy back into balance because we're having a right relationship with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
that's a big one. Because if we don't do that, then either, the creational forces or the earth tend to regulate the out of balance fire energies, which is rain, floods,
Yeah.
There's some kind of intervention that usually comes in for that.
Hmm. Absolutely. I love the fire. I actually had a fire the other night, and I was actually thinking of having one last night or tonight because it's calling me. Like it's literally calling me, like, come make a fire. And so I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And so I think tonight we're gonna go sit out and have a fire and be. So absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Deborah, thank you for your comments. She's like such a wonderful awareness of all the beauty that is becoming, like becoming. Loving all that what you're sharing. I was just going to say, let's talk about the beauty of fire. And I love to watch a fire dancing, each flame, such a beauty and individuating of light. Yeah. And it's interesting because as you're talking, that was one of my things that I'm envisioning for my home. Either there's a working fireplace or there's a wood stove. That's a requirement for my next home. I've been putting that into my, vision of when I do, move into a home. Those things are either that or I'm putting one in, right? That I can put one in because I love that and I also miss that too, having that in my home space. So I think what you brought in was so powerful because that is true. Like, how are we relating to all the elements, on a regular basis, not leaving them out?
And you think like fire has been one of those elements that has always been a little more challenging for humanity to work with. There's been times we're in harmony with it and times we're not in harmony with it. But
Yeah.
when we can treat it like one, a divine gift, two, have a relationship like it's a brother or sister, like it's part
Hmm.
of the family, it
Yeah.
then really does bring such a profound level of healing, into our lives. And guess what? Like where there's anger, there's an imbalance of fire energy, right? Like where there's frustration, there's an imbalance of fire energy. Where there's conflict, there's an imbalance of fire energy. So that's
Hmm.
something everyone can look at, right? And
Hmm.
it's just a reflection, and well, if I was dating fire, this is the way I like to look at it. If
Ooh.
fire was my girlfriend, how do I treat her? If water was my girlfriend, how do I treat her and how do I talk to her? If money
Hmm.
was my girlfriend, how do I talk to her? How do I treat her? If the earth was my girlfriend, how do I talk to her? If the air, I have these conversations because it's understanding the relationship, a relationship we have, and that reciprocity, that energy exchange. And when
Hmm.
that's in balance, everything's in harmony.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. So true. So true. So it doesn't look like we've had any questions come in, but I definitely can feel the connection and the vibe. Everyone's in the energy of this. So Deborah, yeah, I have felt I always have had a deep fire energy and not always appreciated, even though I grew up holding it back. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us have that. Like I've had that too, like very fiery energy in life. And it's not so appreciated. And it's really interesting because in one of the groups that I lead, the Guiding Light Sanctuary, one of the members was like, messaged me afterwards because they shared a really powerful share, and they were like, sometimes I've had to hold myself back in spaces because it's not okay to just let. And I said, be real. Like this is about being real, letting your true nature have a space to express and be. And so, uh, I appreciate that, exactly the passion, the love, the depth that we feel and that we think, and letting that have its way through us in a way that is feels natural rather than holding back. And I appreciate you bringing those pieces in, Richard, about I love that way of like looking at it, like if water's my girlfriend or how would I treat it. I really like that way of creating that personable relationship and then going into how would I be in integrity with that? How would I be in my values with treating someone that I love and care about? That and then for me it comes back home to the body, since our body are all these elements. Like how am I treating that within here? how am I treating my liver? How am I treating the waters of my body? How am I treating, the flesh of the earth of my body? Yeah.
I've heard something that's really made me think over the last, I should say, reflect over the last week. And I heard the reference, since we're made up of elements, that our body is made up of elements, that the elements are also our ancestors.
Mm, yeah.
And it's like, so,
Indeed. Yeah. So Richard's just, you're being asked, how would you treat fire if she was your girlfriend?
okay, so just as an example, right? Like, I look at what my current relationship with fire would be. So, how often do I talk with her? How often do I sit with her? Am I only asking her to warm me? Like, what am I sharing with her? What am I giving back to her? How is that energy in that relationship reciprocal? Because the human nature that we've kind of been conditioned to is just to ask for things. So we say, there's the fire. Now warm me, give me this, cook this, do that, right? Like if I talk to my girlfriend that way, like my wife that way, it would not go well, right? Like so it's like what is the relationship that I want to have fire? Where I want to honor the fire. I want to give to the fire. I want the fire. I want to feel the nourishment for fire, but I also want to share my gratitude and ask the fire like what I can do for it and how I can help it and how I can, you know, honor it, right? So that's the shift, the consciousness shift we're looking for. Because sometimes just that little reflection makes us realize, whoa, maybe I've been taking advantage of the fire and not really honoring it in a way that it like deserves. Same with water. Like when I see water, do I just pick it up and drink it and take it for granted? Or what's my relationship like with water, right? Like, do
Mhm.
I talk to the water? Everything has a spirit, everything. So fire has a spirit, right? So do I talk with the spirit of the fire? Do I invite that like into my life and into my home and into my life? Am I inviting it with me, right? Or am I just asking it for things?
Mhm.
That to me is the balance, right?
Mhm.
That's that these are the ancient teachings that we all know. It's in our DNA. We're just
Mhm.
so busy we forget to listen to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I love that. Being very aware of that exchange rather than just the taking or the wanting or what's going to benefit me. It's how is there that flow and exchange of energy that, like you said, that reciprocity. So yeah, Deborah says, Richard, you taught me a deep lesson of reciprocity with nature. I'm not surprised your answer holds this. Yeah.
It's another thing I would do is I have a deeply shamanically practice daily, and it's for me it's never about the outcomes. It's always about the practice. And but what I would do is I would do a shamanic journey to connect with the spirit of fire, and I would talk with the spirit of fire. Like, what are you here to teach me?
Hmm.
What are you here to teach me? What are the gifts I can learn and understand from fire? And then how can I build how can I honor my relationship with you?
Hmm.
Those are that's the kind of like the big
Yeah.
work, right?
Yeah.
In terms of building our like connectedness.
Hmm. So beautiful. I really appreciate that statement that you made about it's not about the outcome, it's about the practice. Just welcoming everyone to let that land, right? Because so often when we go to do something, it's all about the outcome.
Yeah.
What am I going to get from this? I'm doing my manifestation. Why am I not getting? Rather than going, so that's a profound statement. And I really honor that as well. And that's why I'm always show me the way. Show me the way. Because I don't know. And I'm willing to know, right? I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to know. So whatever that way needs to be, show me so I can so I can follow, right? And so this is where we recognize that we are following the lead of our soul or our guides or our guidance or the inner knowing, and that it's going to take us to maybe even a whole different outcome that we could imagine. right? Because we were so focused on the specific thing we wanted the outcome for, right? Yeah, so let's see. Let's see here, Linda. The dance between the personal and collective is always a challenge when it comes to being with the suffering of the children. Any thoughts? Hmm.
The dance between the personal and the collective. Yeah, I mean, I truly have like a shamanic way of viewing things. So for myself, I would understand whatever it is I'm experiencing in the direct reality. There's a form of like teaching or understanding that I'm working through. So I would be working through that with what's showing up for me. So if it's in my reality, then I know that's something that's in my path that I'm meant to walk, right? Or walk through. And some of those thing experiences where there is suffering, right? Where there is suffering, I would personally journey on that and I would ask how I could work through this. I don't like to assume I know. I think that's always kind of a red flag. Like if we just think we know what is the best way to work through this, I would actually, for myself, I would journey on that and I would ask, you know, what am I meant to learn and understand from this? How, what is the medicine that is meant to come through this? What are the teachings or how can we bring in the support for this? And those are the kind of, you know, answers I would be looking for. I would also probably journey and connect in with them, my ancestors that are beyond my bloodline, because there's just such great ancestral wisdom there. And they always have want to see the highest and best for humanity in a pure, unconditionally loving field. So I would probably seek guidance from that place to help make sure the wisdom that's coming in is in a grounded manner that is free from my ego and from my pain and suffering, right?
Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Beautiful answer here and opportunity. Richard, how can I lead in love my starseed children when their parents are not open at all? My time with these beautiful children has become so limited.
Well, so we all have different teachers in our life, right? So this is teaching you. There's a teaching here. How does it make you feel? What are the feelings and the emotions that you have? This is the soul alchemy, right? You know, I've been through lots of healing as well. And when these situations come up, we have to ask. There's part of our consciousness that's usually trying to integrate and return on the other side of the suffering and pain, right? So
Mm.
if you're feeling rejected or sadness, right? There's part of your soul consciousness that has been through that is coming and trying to return to you. So it's how do we come into harmony with that? And what is the teaching through this that my soul is trying to learn so I can reintegrate that part of myself that maybe didn't feel safe to be here before, right? So it can return. So that's the way I would look at that is if it's in your path and it's in front of you, there's a teaching there. There's something your soul is trying to understand or heal or embody, learn or overcome through that. That's what creates, the diamond, right?
Yeah, yeah. So extreme sadness. So I appreciate that answer, absolutely, because it is always a teaching. And we're gonna begin to start to close our time together here. But one of the things that I love the curiosity to go into this like journey and understand what is present for any of us in any of our experiences, and really go, what's here for me through this? And or to learn to grow to, and I can feel the depth of sadness, Deborah, because I feel that there's also other people that I've worked with that feel like they want more connection with their grandchildren and want to support them in this new way of being, but it's challenging because, the parents don't necessarily uh, believe the same things or have that same way of consciousness. And one of the things that really helped some other people was just, there's that deep acceptance of going, well, maybe I can accept also those children's soul path, right? If this is their chosen soul path to be with these parents and then still have me in the field, there's something that everyone's learning and gaining from this collaboration of interaction on a soul agreement level. Right? So then going, okay. So then instead of focusing on the limitation, going, whenever I'm with them, I'm going to bring the fullest that I can of what our connection is and really connect with that while going through forgiveness or compassion or that deep space of the past lives that you're speaking about to do the healing that's coming up for you, especially through the soul agreements that you've all had maybe in the past and in this life to create this type of combination again for all that's here to learn and to create together. So, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Beauty, joy, laughter, play. Exactly. Yes. Ah, wow. Wow. We traversed a lot of territory here with such grace. I feel this groundedness, this depth, this real powerful flow that we were able to bring through, Richard. So, just in a moment here, do you have any thoughts that you would like to share or leave this space with before we close? Yeah.
Do I have any thoughts? That's a great
Or
question.
feelings from your heart. Any other words from your heart or that just to leave a message. Yeah.
Yeah, I think fall in love with the practice, fall in
Mhm.
love with the work, and fall in love with the soul alchemy, and you'll find how beautiful even the most unbeautiful parts are, right? That you start to enjoy. And it's truly that's when you start to open up to more miracles and just the pure divine unfoldments that are always happening and the synchronicities. And it
Mhm.
is really amazing um, how much is truly here for us,
Mhm.
whether we're aware or unaware of it, it's here. And I think that's another message that your guides are with you, your ancestors are with you, the earth is with you. You know, what you're searching for, it's actually here now and it's actually here with you. What we want to fix or what we want to adjust is the unawareness of it, right?
Mhm. Aho, thank you. Blessings. So, how can people connect with you, Richard?
Uh, on Instagram, it's Richard D. Chambers, and my website is starseedschangingtheworld.com. So
Mhm.
through either of those outlets or on Facebook, you can
Mhm.
connect with me. Okay. I'd love to
Beautiful.
connect with you. So,
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I really appreciate you being here. It's been a pleasure connecting with you. So, yeah, you can find him at Instagram and Richard D. Chambers or starseedschangingtheworld.com. And to connect with me for sessions, mentorships, or to subscribe to receive energy updates or online events, you can go to awakenedsoul.net. And again, as Richard so brilliantly said, let's fall in love with our path, right? I love that, Richard. I love that message. It's really beautiful. And for the Awaken Soul with Kristen podcast, you can join me every first and third Wednesday of the month here live on YouTube or on Zoom, and you can access that on awakensoul.net podcast as well. And we always join at 9 a.m. Pacific or 12 p.m. Eastern. And I either it's me or we have a wonderful guest like Richard on. And so our next podcast will be Wednesday, March 18th. And till then, breathe, relax, and love. So thank you everyone for being here. Appreciate your presence. And again, as always, I appreciate your powerful presence, Richard. Thank you.
oh, thank you, Kristen.
I hope. Hmm. Yeah.